Welcome to the new ball, live from Galle. Australia has set itself up to bat big, long, and potentially just once if today goes to plan. At 2 for 330, the Aussies can dictate the play. If the first new ball is anything to go by, scoring before lunch should be far easier than it was later in the day. So Usman Khawaja, who's unbeaten on 147, and Steve Smith on 104, can properly fill their boots if they're hungry enough to do so. And as classy, inventive and crafty as Khawaja was yesterday en route to his 16th Test ton and his first in 2.5 years, the day will be remembered for Smith. The ultimate problem solver, the quirky, idiosyncratic superstar, only needed one run to get to 10,000. Fidgety as ever, he achieved the milestone on the first ball he faced and became the 4th Aussie and 15th player overall to tick over the landmark. Smith, the right-hander, facing Jai Surya. He bowls, Smith hits it to mid-on and he'll scamper through for one. 10,000 test runs for Steve Smith. The Aussie fans stand and applaud in the crowd. It's a precious moment for an unconventional but incredible player. He raises the bat, Steve Smith. He has a smile to the umpire. Jai Surya pats him on the back. There's acknowledgements from all corners of Galle. Steve Smith, the 4th Australian to get to 10,000 test runs. But he should have been out 2 balls later. Jai Surya shelling a caught and bowled, then again shortly after when he whacked a ball high to cover. These were 2 of the 4 costly drop catches Sri Lanka squandered, plus 2 missed DRS decisions. All up, 6 errors from a team which can ill afford to make any, especially not in a 2-test series. Khawaja benefited from 3 of these blunders. Smith 2, and Head once via a missed LBW DRS. And as Khawaja and Smith scampered off when the rain came, their partnership resting at 195, it occurred to me that this was like Mother Nature's mercy call for the Sri Lankans. Not only were they physically broken and lifeless, they were fresh out of ideas by the end of the day, bowling outside the leg stump for the best part of 2.5 or 3 hours, hoping for an error which never came. Still, the beauty of Test cricket, as Bharat Sundaresan is about to tell us, is you add 2 wickets to the score, consider the starting in the subcontinent is notoriously difficult, and weigh up the relative inexperience of what's to come for Australia, and there will still be a contest in this test. The problem for Sri Lanka is because they literally fumbled yesterday, the margin of error today is minimal. Aside from Van der Say's ever so classy undoing of Labuschagne, there were no highlights for the hosts on day 1. Wide of the crease, Van der Say, edge and out! Labuschagne's really struggled to the leg spinner. He came wide of the crease. He celebrates with vigour. Labuschagne opened the face, and it's caught at first slip by the captain. He departs for 20. It was a long time coming. This is the new ball for Cobram Estate, Australia's most awarded extra virgin olive oil, grown, harvested and first cold pressed in northern Victoria. 1300 736 736 to have your say. We are an interactive show. It's a 2-way street. Don't let the fact we're in Galle deter you. Give us a call. Send us a text if you're in New South Wales or Queensland, 0457 736 736, the 40 Wings Temper text. If you're in Victoria, 0433 98 11 16. Would love to hear from you. And as always, to analyse, unpack, assess, calculate and decipher it all is my new ball partner, Bharat Sundaresan. As always, great to see you, Baz.
Tommy, I was just in rapt attention as you summed up what happened on day 1, and there were so many talking points. I mean, you can look at the score 2 for 330 and say, oh, it's just complete domination by Australia, and in many ways it was. And for me, the moment that really summed it up was what happened with the second new ball. We saw just 10 balls with the second new ball, but there was a 2-ball play where Prabhat Jayasuriya, Sri Lanka had been waiting desperately for that second new ball to be available. The ball had gone soft. They'd employed defensive tactics, but as soon as the new ball was in Prabhat Jayasuriya's hand, he was back at the 4th end where he's taken so many wickets here in Galle, and you kind of immediately sensed that Sri Lanka felt like they could get back into the game. And there was this 3rd ball with that over where it just skid through, and Usman Khawaja had to bring his bat down very sharply to keep it out. He smiled, and the next ball landing on the same spot. How many times has Jayasuriya trapped a batter after setting him up like that in these conditions? But this time Khawaja just put his front foot out and just slapped it for 4, the reverse sweep. And I think that was the hardest hit reverse sweeps. He hit quite a few reverse sweeps yesterday during his mammoth innings, but that one really felt like a statement piece to me and really summed up how Australia dominated Sri Lanka, Usman Khawaja and Steve Smith in particular, after Travis Head had given them that start.
So let's talk about Steve Smith first of all, and this is the first delivery of the first over. News just in from the MCG, Australia has won the toss in the Women's Ashes Test against England and will bowl first. But the first delivery is Steve Smith, 10,000 Test runs, a remarkable achievement, a privilege to be here for it, Baz. And you've seen a lot of him over the journey, you've spoken to him a lot. You said at the start of the summer he's found his hands, his feet, his eyes, whatever else he uses to bat. And there was doubts early in the summer. Externally, because he didn't make the runs early, and he ground away in Brisbane, and he batted beautifully at the MCG, and he failed in Sydney. But look at him now; he's an anywhere, anytime sort of player, and he problem solved beautifully yesterday.
Look, I've already bored people to death with by talking about that one net session I saw of Steve Smith.
Well, tell us again, if anyone that's missed it.
It happened during the ODI series against Pakistan. It was the second ODI. He was there having a long net in Adelaide, the Adelaide Oval, and the initial bit was all about white ball stuff because they were still playing in ODI, hitting the ball around. And then he came back later, and even though he was still facing the white ball, his entire focus, you could see, was just getting his body in order, the way he likes it to be, in order for him to feel good about his batting. And he started, by the end of that session, commentating his own batting like he does often. But he was saying things like, "Oh, there are no shots to describe that shot. Oh, wonderful shot. Oh, great shot."
Saying that about himself?
Yeah, about himself. And standing behind him, as always, I felt like, okay, this is the summer of Smith. If Steve Smith's so high on himself and his batting this early on in the summer, he's going to dominate this summer against India. So even though he failed in the first two test matches, there was that strangle down the leg side in Adelaide, which Adam Collins and I have spoken about a lot. I was still very confident that, it just needs one thing, like maybe a bit of luck early on or something to go his way, because he is in the form that he was in when he was dominating attacks, which is why once he got that 100, I got a feeling that he's going to make a few more after that. And there you go, 3 out of 4, or 3 in 4 test matches since.
So when you look at Steve Smith, probably 6 months ago, I saw a player that was in decline. Now, to what level that decline was is open for debate, but he was never going to be the player that he was in the 2019 Ashes. I don't think we expect that. But he's too good a player. He's been too good a player to simply fall off a perch at the age of 35. Maybe that happens when he's 38. But I was worried that he wouldn't have an Indian summer, i.e. another 18 to 24 months of being towards the top of his game. And now that he's done it, it gives us a chance to celebrate Steve Smith for the batter he's become. And he's ticking off milestones now. And we already knew who's an all-time great. That puts him in the very upper echelon of test batters of all time. Not just because he's done it everywhere, but because he's done it at a pace that rivals your Laras, your Tendulkars, your Sangakaras, your Pontings. That's the level he's at now. He's not just a 10,000 run maker. He's done it quicker than all but 4 in history, which tells us that he should be considered the player of this generation from an Australian perspective.
Oh, absolutely. If he wasn't already. He's really set the benchmark for Australia in Test cricket with the bat in hand. His record with the bat when he's captained, he's loved that. He's averaged 70. And speaking of milestones, yes, he got to the 10,000 run mark, which is special, and it was even more special because Usman Khawaja was down there with him. And he spoke so lovingly, Usman, that is, about having been there and grown up with Steve Smith. But he's already climbed up. He was the 15th batter to get to 10,000. He's gone past Yunus Khan. And now he just, when I look at that scoreboard, he's 104. So he's just, if I get my math right, he's 18 runs away from going past Sunil Gavaskar, or 19 runs away from going past Sunil Gavaskar's iconic record of 10,122 runs. And then he's got a few more in his sights, and then he will climb that list very quickly. And I think we had this bit of a debate even during the home summer where you said, I can't see Steve Smith going back to being at his best. He's still just 35. We often forget because these players have been together for so long. We often get the ages confused, or we get them mixed up. Usman Khawaja at 38 is different to Steve Smith at 35. Steve Smith could still go on a run of 2 years where he dominates bowling attacks. I mean, look, 300s in 4 test matches at any stage of your career is a sign of dominance. And just the way he batted yesterday, I think is an ominous sign for everyone who's going to counter him for the next 12 months, whether it's South Africa in the World Test Championship final, the West Indies in the Caribbean, or England when they come playing baseball to Australia.
And it was an innings in reverse, as we mentioned yesterday as well, because he was 47 from 46 balls. So he went out hard, and then he was patient. So the innings played out in a way that David Warner did in the back end of his career, in that he put the pressure on the bowlers early, then he was happy to milk them late. And that just shows great maturity and concentration, and he deserves all the plaudits he gets for the way he batted yesterday. The second delivery of the first over is the man you mentioned before, Usman Khawaja, who was without a test century for 2.5 years, rightfully under pressure given his age and his lack of runs, but he loves playing in these conditions. But he hasn't always loved playing in these conditions, Baz, has he? Jared Waitley mentioned this morning on SEN that he remembers being in India in 2017 when he was out of the team, and now he loves playing in the subcontinent, and he's scored tons in Dubai, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and India, which tells us that he's a player of perhaps greater note than we ever thought possible when he was coming through.
Very much so. The Usman can't play spin, or Uzi can't play spin was a real thing for quite a while. I mean, it was a stigma that stuck with him, and it affected him. He's spoken about it in the past, about how personal it became at one point. And for him to become the second Australian batter ever, after the great Alan Border, to have a test century in India, Pakistan and now Sri Lanka, tells you that he's now in the top 2 greatest Australian batters in the subcontinent, in statistically speaking anyway. But for him to do it at Galle, where in 2016 he had the ignominy of having or being dismissed twice on the same day. And he spoke about it in the press conference. He remembers his wife, Rachel, being here and her being in tears, and how they went out for dinner that night somewhere along the coast, and how it felt that night and how emotional it was for both him and his partner. But to come back and then, he had a great tour here, I thought, in 2022, made a crucial 71 in the first test. Never getting to play in India before 2023 was a travesty, in my opinion. Finally got his chance, played a crucial hand in Delhi, but Australia couldn't see it through. Played a match-winning knock in Indore, made 100 finally in Ahmedabad on that flat pitch. And now he's ticked it off here after having dominated Pakistan. So in the space of 2 years, and he's always said there's a pre-UAE Usman Khawaja in the subcontinent when he made that match-saving 100 in Dubai, and then there's the post.
He draws a line, doesn't he? And he learned from George Bailey reverse sweeping and switch hitting in the one-dayers before that series, and he took it on himself. And how old was he then? Late 20s? And he changed the way he plays against spin.
It was George Bailey reverse sweeping in Sri Lanka during the one-day series.
That's right.
After the test series. That, I think you're right, where he noticed it and he felt he's going to add it to his armory. And as you saw, I mean, we used to rave about Andy Flower when he was reverse sweeping spinners back in the day. But, Usman Khawaja's climbed up that list. In my opinion, he's already on par with Andy Flower when it comes to the reverse sweep.
Gents, love the new ball. Sri Lanka version. Question, who do you regard as Australia's best subcontinent batsman in the modern era? Well, the two we've spoken about must be at the very top. Yeah. Matthew Hayden would be up there as well. But you can't really go past Steve Smith.
Oh, Steve Smith is just... and we spoke about it a few times yesterday about how, yes, it would have been romantic if he got that 10,000th run in Sydney. But for him to get it here in the subcontinent was equally poetic, if not romantic, because he's some of his most iconic knocks have come on turning pitches in India and in Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. So, it made sense. And yesterday he really wound back the clock. He was playing against spin the way he used to when he was dominating spin in 2017. The use of his feet. I mean, to have a deep mid-wicket for the leg spinner and still pierce that gap. Told you how much he was controlling the narrative out there in the middle. And that is Steve Smith at his absolute peak. Coming back to my point, he might still get back to his best. Tommy, don't rule it out.
If we can get back there, it'll be something to behold. The Ashes next summer, as one texter put out, absolutely crucial. Let's just that's the first delivery, Steve Smith. The second delivery is Usman Khawaja. The third delivery will be Travis Head and his innings. That was an interesting knock in itself. We'll get to that after the break. This is the new ball for Henley Mainview Collection. Prices your bank will love and your friends will envy. And just repeating the news from the MCG, Australia has won the toss in the Women's Ashes Test to go 16-0 and whitewash the English. The Aussies will bowl first. Georgia Vole, the batter, will make her debut. Alyssa Healy will captain the side after recovering from a foot injury, but she won't wicket keep. Beth Mooney will have the gloves on in this 4-day pink ball test at the MCG, the first test match for the Australian women at the MCG since 1949, Baz. Travis Head, the third delivery of the first over coming up after the break. You're listening to the new ball live from Galle.
Honestly, I think that's some of the best batting partnership that I've been involved with. Just like in terms of I felt like I batted really well, but Stephen Smith at the other end batted beautifully. I thought Marnus batted really well too for his cameo, and then heading up the top, batted really well. So I batted with all those guys, and they're credit due to, honestly, credit due to us. That's it's turning. We could have easily been 7-8 down tonight. Just batted really well, and some wickets. And that wicket's not going to get any easier. That wicket's definitely going to turn more and more and get more up and down. So fingers crossed we can get a big total this first innings.
Usman Khawaja speaking after the game last night to SEN Cricket. This is the new ball for Cobram Estate, Australia's most awarded extra virgin olive oil, grown, harvested, and first cold pressed in northern Victoria. Bharat Sundaresan. I said we'd move on to Travis Head, but there's just a lot of text messages coming through, and we are an interactive show.
Yes, we are.
On the 40 Winks temper text 0433 98 11 16, or if you're in Queensland and New South Wales 0457 736 736. How many test tons do you think Steve Smith can get? He's 35 at the moment, and he's alone on 35 actually, because he's gone past Yunus Khan, Gavaskar, Lara and Jai Wardner, which means he's now one behind Dravid and Root. And crucially, he's 6 adrift of Ricky Ponting. Is that gettable?
Oh, very much so. I mean, if he can continue... and if you look at Steve Smith's career, like with all great batters, who are in that upper echelon, like who got more than 30 hundreds or 25 hundreds, they do score centuries in clumps, don't they? Like, so when they get on a roll, which is what allows them to make so many hundreds, is they have that ability to really make the most of a good vein of form or turn it into a great vein of form. So he's got 3 in 4 now. And also, not to forget, second consecutive first innings test ton in Galle. So that's crucial to mention as well. So that Ricky Ponting, that'll be the next major Australian milestone for him to overcome, right? Because he's still a fair way away from getting close to Ricky Ponting's tally of runs. Maybe he might get there, but that'll be quite something. But yeah, the hundreds. Look, he's got this one. He's got a test match in London, and he rarely doesn't score 100 in London.
Yep.
So the World Test Championship final in Lords. And then, 3 test matches in the Caribbean. We don't know what the pitches will be like there. But Australia haven't played a test match there for a decade, so that'll be interesting to see. And then the Ashes, and will definitely be Steve Smith's final Ashes at home. Or probably his final Ashes ever.
Do you think he can get to the mid-2027? That's a huge test year, given, and you know how motivated he is by these sorts of achievements, as he should be, but 5 tests against India at the start of 2027.
Yeah, that would be...
The sesquicentenary test in Melbourne, celebrating 150 years of test cricket, and then 5 Ashes test matches. That would be an incredible swan song if he can get there.
Oh, absolutely. And he would be... Deep inside, I don't think he's even thinking that far, but if he can keep his body together and his form together. What he has done though with this run, if he hadn't done it already, he's given himself not the right word, but he's given himself enough credits to decide when he wants to go, if that makes sense. I mean, nobody gets it's 100% like carte blanche, the freedom to do that. But still, I think Australia will want Steve Smith in the side for as long as they can have him. And that not winning a series in India and not winning a series in England is a thing for a lot of these players. Nathan Lyon up there. There is an outside chance that he gets there and plays those 10 test matches alongside Nathan Lyon, and what a great way it'll be for both of them to go.
Yeah. So he can write his own ticket in the same way that Steve Waugh could write his own ticket, and probably Matthew Hayden did, and certainly Ricky Ponting did. You're right, it's not carte blanche, but it's as close as any Australian cricketer can get, and probably Shane Warne was a similar level, maybe a slight level up from that as well. Text message coming through, Pup, the most underrated player of spin. He's the second best Aussie player of spin since 2000. That is a valid comment.
Oh, and some of Steve Smith's footwork yesterday was almost an ode to Michael Clarke. The quickness of his feet, the way he was jumping at the spinners, changing their lengths, hitting them to different parts of the ground, the same delivery to different parts of the ground was so reminiscent of how Michael Clarke played ever since he made his test debut in Bangalore.
What's the weather doing here? It's sun, it's humid,
muggy,
it's muggy, and there was a huge downpour at 4 a.m, which I didn't hear. I was asleep. But our Villa mate, Bryce McGain, heard, and Simon Kadich just walked up here and he was awake as well. So the outfield is a little bit more tacky than it was yesterday. It was quick yesterday. We'll talk more about the conditions in the pitch a little bit later on. And we are going to get to Travis Head, but first it's news time. This is the new ball live from Galle. We see the Indian Ocean to our right. We see the Indian Ocean to our left. And behind us, Bharat, we see Galle Fort, which was a real picture yesterday. What a privilege it was to be here as people were up on Galle Fort. One with a Shane Warne sign, which is great. One dressed as a kangaroo.
That's right. And one riding a kangaroo as well.
Sorry, that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
A blow-up kangaroo. We absolutely love that. We're here for the Henley Main View collection. Prices your bank will love and your friends will envy. Get involved in the conversation. Or give us a call, 1300 736 736. The third delivery of the first over is Travis Head, Baz, who was put up to open the batting yesterday. He loves opening the batting in the subcontinent, and it showed with the way he approached the Sri Lankan players. He just didn't let any of them settle. 57 runs from 40 balls, 10 fours, 1 6. When he was dismissed, Australia was 1 for 92 in the 15th over. So he got the Aussies off to the start that they needed. He could have got bigger, but that was a crucial role that he played.
Well, that moustache that he started growing in Nagpur, and I remember telling him, hey, keep the moustache on. Your record with the moustache already at that stage was sensational. It's taken him a while, I think, to convince Jess, his partner, his wife, who's also on tour here, to get her to let him keep the moustache. And his numbers in the subcontinent since. And look, you might think, I'm just talking about something silly and random about his moustache, but it has worked, right? His record with it, and it's getting thicker and thicker and bushier and bushier every time you see it.
Becoming more and more like David Boone.
It is, and as the quality of the moustache has gone better and better, so has his batting against spin. And you might read the scoreboard, and if you haven't seen much of the action yesterday and think, Travis Head must have just played very aggressively, like baseball, trap ball, whatever you call it, but he did not take a risk. The one time he did try taking a risk, which is trying to clear long on, is when he got out. And so it was risk-free power hitting, and it was sensational to watch. And 15-20 minutes more of Travis Head, and he might have got himself one of the quickest hundreds of all time. He was well on track. Which is why Australia like having him at the top of the order, because you can either adjust, and it's such a subtle art. When you come to these kind of conditions, turning conditions, spinning conditions, you can either adjust to the tempo of the game or set the tempo of the game.
Interesting.
And I think that's what Travis Head was able to do with the way he batted.
And it's completely authentic to the way he bats. It's not like he... Sam Constas we'll talk about a little bit later, but Sam Constas doesn't bat like he did at the MCG in first-class cricket. Travis Head could be playing any format of cricket anywhere in the world, and he will bat the same way. This is not to say he doesn't have subtle gears, but he does have some adjustments that he makes to play depending on the conditions that he's playing in. Kim Garth has struck in the first over at the MCG. Boucher gone for 2, caught behind by Beth Mooney. So England are now 1 wicket down. And that's not the start that the English wanted as the Australians head for a whitewash. Travis Head as a cricketer is fantastic. I hope he opens this in the subcontinent every single time the Australians go there. It's just who he opens with in the future, and that's a conversation we can have a little bit later on. So England are 1 for 3. The fourth delivery of the first over is the Sri Lankan bowling, the fielding, the DRS, the overall vibe of the Sri Lankans. We're going to deal with that after the break. You're listening to The New Ball with the Indian Ocean surrounding us, live from Galle. You are listening to The New Ball live from Galle for Cobram Estate. Our good friends, Baz, at Cobram Estate, Australia's most awarded extra virgin olive oil, grown, harvested and first cold pressed in Northern Victoria. Brent and the team love their work and love the fact they're partnering with us for this tour and the Australian summer in general. So the Aussies have taken 1 wicket at the MCG in the Women's Ashes. The fourth delivery of the first over is Sri Lanka. Not the country, not the culture here as much as we love it. It's their performance yesterday. Their bowlers, their fielders, their leadership. What did you make of it?
I thought the bowling was not too bad. Nishan Paris was the one spinner who got no control, and he's been picked in the side to provide control, but he was going at over 5 and over, unable to bowl a single maiden over, so that didn't help. Asita Fernando, fast bowler. Look, if they go for that DRS against Travis Head at the end of his third over, with Travis still in his 20s, and it's given out, who knows how this day would have panned out, and who knows how many more overs Asita Fernando would have bowled, because he did get that one ball to skid, which could mean ominous things for Sri Lanka when Mitchell
Yeah.
Starc has the ball in his hand. But I thought both Prabhat Jayasuriya does Prabhat Jayasuriya, doesn't he? He just lands the ball on that spot, keeps the batters honest. I thought Australia played him especially in fabulous fashion. All of them, Travis Head and even Marnus while he was there before he got out to the leggy, who did bother him. And then Khawaja and Smith we've already spoken about. And Van der Sar, well, he's played. This is just his second test. He's someone in his mid-30s. He's an interesting cricketer. Plays wide ball cricket. He's been around for a long time. Took that 1-6 wicket haul. He's there and thereabouts. So he bowled a couple of magic deliveries, but he was also just milked and ground to the dust by Steve Smith in particular, and Khawaja went after him as well. So the bowling, you could still give a 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
The catching,
Just passable, the bowling.
Passable, yeah. But there was a lack of awareness. I think they just let the spinners wheel away, even though they were not building any pressure for way too long. And the drop catches don't help. Smith on 1. Khawaja when he was in his 40s, and Smith again, like you said, the ball just flying past the short cover fielder when he was very early on in his innings, and the two DRS, the mishaps didn't help, but I thought they went for the defensive line when they realized that ball was soft, they were getting nothing, and the pitch is interesting. It's tacky still, it's turning, but it's still slow. But Khawaja said it's Galle, so it is turning.
Yeah.
But the batters, from what we saw, had enough time to adjust. At least that's what it felt
slow
like
spin
from the sidelines. Yeah, but only those who bat out there will know how challenging it was. I thought like that. There's a bit of flatness to it, to their performance, Sri Lanka, because these are conditions in which they're coming off 2 big wins against New Zealand
Yep.
at home. Yes, they lost in South Africa, so you would have expected them to put on a slightly more challenging show to the Australians. But again, we'll see how this pitch plays out when Nathan Lyon and the 2 young spinners go on it.
Yeah, that's right. The problem with the Sri Lankans face now is that it's a 2-test series, so if they make bad mistakes like this on day 1, it's even harder to get back. Like as I mentioned in the editorial, the margin for error is so small now. They can't afford to have another day like yesterday where they miss chances, and you don't expect all 6 of those chances, 4 of them catches and 2 DRS to be taken, but you need to take a couple to get into Australia's middle order. So the margin for error today is really small, not just for this test match, but as a result for the 2-test series. So we expect more from them today. It's a 15-minute earlier start, 98 overs in the day. There's every chance Australia will just try to bat long and big and bat once and maybe bat all day. And if they do that, then that will be a serious test of not just the bowlers' technical capabilities, but also their fitness, their durability, and their strategic nous as well. They'll have to try some things.
The narrative as it's set right now, you can just see it playing out in your eyes if it works perfectly to Australia, or the way Australia would have planned it, is bat deep. Josh Inglis, what a time it'll be for him when he gets to walk out there for the first time as a test cricketer, with Australia so far ahead, even if the wicket falls at the
I'm looking
first
forward
ball,
to that.
that'll be quite something. Bo Webster just playing his second test, first one away from home. Alex Carey will come and sweep, and there's Todd Murphy showed that he can play some attacking shots in England as
And
well.
Mitchell Starc.
Yeah, very much so. And Mitchell Starc's done a lot of batting in the net. So what the ideal scenario for Australia, get to 500, 600, whatever it is. They have been scoring quickly anyway, and put Sri Lanka in there for that uncomfortable 1.5 hours or so, and get 4 or 5 down. If they can do that, then they know they won't have to bat again, and they could wrap this test match very quickly. But that's what Sri Lanka need to alter. They need to kind of firstly fight with the ball, show some courage, take some chances, because the ball is still very fresh. Prabhat Jayasuriya needs some support at the other end, and if they can get some wickets and restrict Australia to even say anywhere less than 500, and then back their batters. It's such a seasoned batting lineup, and they would have seen that this pitch doesn't have too many demons so far, and then they could bat big in the first innings, as we saw them do in the second test in Galle last time, and then put the pressure right back on Australia.
Ask Australia to make the running. A text coming through. Let's pump the brakes on how great the Oz batting was. They all should have been out for under 10 and 50, and then if so, they're 4 for 100. 2 things can be true in cricket, Baz. It is true the Australians batted well. It's also true the Sri Lankans could have halted them in their tracks, and that's the beauty of cricket, that you've got to make the most of those opportunities. The 5th ball in the first over, the conditions, the pitch and the weather. You mentioned the turn was slow yesterday, and I'm intrigued to see how much it quickens up as the play goes on. We need the sun to come out for that to happen.
Very much so, and the moisture, the constant rain doesn't help every evening, and it's still so cloudy. I mean, it's not that thick milkshakey cloud that we saw.
Milkshake cloud, I like
Yeah,
that.
for the first few days before the test. But the sun got beat down on it for an hour at best yesterday.
Yeah.
And even that really quickened up the pitch slightly. So if that happens, and then again, that'll play completely into Australia's hand, because then this quick spin and batting is even more difficult. And with if they do pile it on, have a massive total on the board, it could. It already feels like one-way traffic. It could really become one-way traffic.
This is live and exclusive radio coverage from Galle. We're here on the ground in Galle, and it is humid today. Tell us what you're seeing out on the ground, Baz. Give us some insights.
Look, the pitch has been left as it is. The Sri Lankan bowlers are still just going through their warm-ups. Everybody looks relaxed. I mean, it was a pretty relaxed day of Test cricket. It was intense. It was high-quality cricket. The crowd's slowly but surely coming in. Luke Sparrow and his gang are already here in what they've just deemed to be the Shane Warne stand right next to the Galle Cricket Club. And there's been... they're all in high spirits. One day there was one spectator in particular who ran onto the ground in his underpants at some point. And
I didn't see that.
Yeah, that
How
happened.
was that?
And he also had an interesting banner up, which I cannot repeat on radio.
Right.
It had something to do with Travis Head. I'll leave it at that. And he had to be. He was taken away. The spirits are flowing, the beer is flowing. It was a great day for them. They took over, the Australian fans took over the Galle Stadium. But as we saw the day wear on, the fort also fills up quite nicely, the walls of the fort, the outer walls, I should say. Josh Inglis has had a hit in the middle. He looks excited, he looks pumped. Bo Webster was not too far behind him. Their chance will come at some point. But it could also be a day where Steve Smith and Usman Khawaja make big scores. Khawaja's never got a 200. Oh, has he got a 200 yet?
Yeah, he does.
He does have one.
He does have one.
I think I was there. I was covering it.
Yeah.
But I think they could go really big. This partnership of 195 could easily be doubled up, and then you're talking about something historic.
Double up. We love that. You know what? One thing that I notice about watching these two teams warm up, I would notice across the summer as well, you go to any club game across Australia, and the men or women that are playing, they do a lap and they do a stretch and they do team stuff. There's nothing really team about this. They just do what's required to get themselves ready. They have a bowl, they'll have a hit, they'll have a field, and it's very relaxed stuff. It is a 5-day test match, so there's no need to be intense about it at all. You're listening to the new ball from Galle. Hi, Tom and Bharat. Do you think Lyon and Murphy will be threatening on the wicket, or will it be up to the left armers to take the majority of the wickets?
Oh, I mean, all three will be threatening because Lyon and Murphy do naturally bowl quicker than what the Sri Lankan spinners do. And I can see Matthew Kuhneman do that Prabhat Jayasuriya role. He will be crucial. He'll be vital. That's why they were so desperate to get him fit in time and after the thumb injury. So he'll be crucial. Watch out for that straight ball. I think he's going to get a few wickets. LBWs for sure.
So Usman's top score is 195 not out.
That's
So
what
he's
I
made a
thought.
double.
Yeah,
yes.
I don't think,
He almost made a double.
He almost made a double. I was pretty sure he hasn't made a double.
Well, that could be today. At the age of 38, that would be amazing.
Well, I said I might have been there when he made a double 100. Maybe I was talking about today. Yeah. Foreseeing it.
Looking ahead to today. So that's the fifth ball, the first over, the conditions in the pitch. The sixth ball we'll cover after this. I want to talk to you about the fact that the Australian team has left out Sam Constas, who's probably the next big thing in Australian cricket, and we'll cover that off after the break. You are listening to the new ball. England are 1 for 12 in the fourth over from the MCG. We'll be back after a short break. The new ball for Cobram Estate, Australia's most olive oil grown, harvested and first cold pressed in northern Victoria. The sixth ball of the first over is the criticism around Sam Constas's non-selection. Ricky Ponting said yesterday, I don't like it, to be honest. I just expected that Constas would play and would open the batting. We've seen Travis Head open the batting in the subcontinent very well, and he did very well yesterday. No doubt he'll look to get to Australia after a fly and almost bat like he would in a one-day mode, but I think there is a real missed opportunity for the Australians here to get to learn a bit about Sam Constas if we think he is the player that he is. What was your view on the Constas omission?
Oh, it's a very valid point from Ricky Ponting, and I don't think there are any wrong answers here because what are you looking for, short term or long term? In the short term, yes, Travis Head has shown that he can bat really well in the subcontinent, but he's done it only 3 times, 3 test matches in India. So maybe the Australian selectors felt like we want to give him more opportunities because, like, let's face it, this will in a way be a build up to India as well, and there is not a lot of subcontinental cricket lined up for Australia Test cricket anyway between now and then. With Sam Constas, look, you could not have gone wrong even if you had picked him because he plays in a similar vein, and so far he's already shown that he's not overawed by anything. If you're not overawed by 90,000 people and Jasprit Bumrah running in at you, you won't be overawed by anything else, you'd think. I think Tony Roddermate said, they are very focused on this series, winning this series, even if... and he mentioned the bilateral series and the importance of bilateral series a few times when he spoke to us just before the national anthems yesterday, just explaining why Sam Constance was left out. So, no, I think personally I'm all for it. I think in terms of Travis Head getting a go now, because Constance will only learn from being here, and he's just 19.
Yeah, that's right. He's got plenty of time. The other point is, it's not just Head going up to open the batting. It's Inglis in the middle order. So who is more likely to play the first test in India in 2 years' time? Josh Inglis or Sam Constance? I would say Inglis as a batter.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, right? Before the Boxing Day test, Australia already had it inked in that Khawaja and Head are going to open in Sri Lanka. Then Constance makes his debut, and then it becomes a major topic of discussion, as he would be, considering what he managed to do for this team and for the Australian cricket public. But I think it tells you about someone very special, that he was able to take it in his stride, and also the fact that he's a 19-year-old who's played 2 test matches, who's already learned so much within his first month of being an international cricketer, learned what it is like to play in front of 90,000, learned what it is like to face the greatest bowler of this generation, and now within, like I said, a month, he's learned what it is like to be dropped. And to his credit, he's taken everything in the same stride.
Baz, well done today. We'll see you tomorrow at the same time, 2 p.m. Melbourne time. The new ball for Cobram Estate. Up next, it's Simon Kadich, Adam Collins, Peter Lawler, Bharat Sundaresan, Russell Arnold and Bryce McGain as we near the first ball of day 2 here at Galle.